December brings a lot of things, reflection, goals for the new year. But the important thing that we're here to talk about today, folks, is the 2023 Bloody Water Podcast Award Show. This is the time where all year long we've been doing a head-to-head competition. We've been telling you folks, hey, we're fighting for something larger. Of course, our pride, our ego, we want to win money. We want to win the bets on the fights, but we want to win you guys money. We want to make sure that your Christmas was fulfilled because you racked it up week in and week out here at the Bloody Water Podcast, covering some fantastic UFC fights. Folks, my name is Derick G. Welcome back to another episode, a special episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. Again, it's the award show, and I have to bring in my co-host, the Santa Fe Bomber, the New Mexico native himself. AJ, it has been a hell of a year, brother. It's a grind. We know, admittedly, this is a grind. How are you feeling come December, come end of the tournament? We're going to talk results and all of that good stuff in one moment, but how are you feeling, brother?
Derick, I'm feeling great, brother. I mean, yeah, it might be a grind all year long, but it's one of the most fun grinds out there, especially because one, we're doing what we love, we're enjoying it, we're watching some good fights, but also we're winning money consistently, both for ourselves and for you fine folks out there. So it's a great season. Yeah, it's holiday season, so it might be a little joyous, but honestly, all year long, man, this has been a lot of fun. The head-to-head battle, folks, has been going on and very, very almost deadlock, man. Pretty damn close all year long. It was a fun time. Man, how you feeling, Derick?
I'm feeling good. My spirits are high. It's the Christmas season. Christmas is over, but it's the void when we're recording this between Christmas and New Year. So I'm in a spot where there's a lot of optimism for next year. I want to do some reflection on some of our goals, but more important, I want to crown the winner of the 2023 head-to-head championship. Folks, you see there's 2 belts behind me. Are we going to make it a third? Does AJ get his first? We're going to find out right now. So, without any further ado, folks, if you have not subscribed yet, this is an award show. In the sake of holiday spirit, smash the subscribe button. Tell a friend to tell a friend. You already know what time it is. But let's jump into a little bit of introspection. So, folks, again, all year long, it's been a grind. It's been a battle. Now that we're here, we need to crown a winner. We need to talk about the last year, the final tally, if you shall. So, I'm going to break it up. I'm going to break some hearts. And folks, it is my heart that is broken. Your winner of the 2023 head-to-head championship. AJ, it's not right until I do this. Come on, round of applause. He is the winner, AJ, 134 wins, 80 losses, 3 draws. 63% was the crowning percentage, if you want, here at the Bloody Water Podcast for the year 2023. Now, what's important for us to note here is we had some goals, right, AJ? And we're going to talk about the reflection and what our, our goals were in the grand scheme of things. But take it over, brother. I'm going to have you take a victory lap, baby. Hold on. Let me get off the screen. Go ahead, AJ. Talk about this year. Talk about your championship.
There we go, folks. Victory lap hour. It has been 3 years gunning, and if you've been watching for a while, you know Derick has robbed a couple from me, and he hangs them gloriously behind him. But now your boy finally has his over here hanging on his shoulder. We're going to be moving into a new spot for the year, so you're going to see this bad boy mounted up real nice. And the best part, folks, we're going at it again. Derick was talking about stats, talking about numbers and all that stuff, and yeah, we might have missed that 70% mark we're shooting for, but we're still shooting for the moon. 63 might have got us right here. But plus 65, plus 70, 75 plus, folks, that just means more money in your pocket. It's been a fun year. I mean, this is a hell of a thing to keep carrying, but I'm hunting for another because your boy is still down 2-1 to Derick. So this next year, folks, make sure you tune in. And like Derick said, it may be the holiday season, so maybe be a little joyous. Subscribe, share with your friends because we're going to be winning more money each week, every single week for you. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Derick, it's been a lot of fun, man. I know you got 2, but your boy's catching up.
You catching up. But AJ, we're not done here. The retrospective has not been completed here. I got a couple of questions for you, and I want you to continue to take the floor here, sir. So we do this every year. I want to know, what was the most difficult lesson that you learned this year that was either good, bad, led you to prosperity, maybe you took some losses on a couple of picks? What was the big lesson you learned?
Man, the biggest lesson I learned this year, Derek, especially in the betting game, is do not follow the UFC narrative. They have really got to the point where they are good at telling stories. They can tell many a different storyline to get you thinking one thing or get you thinking the other. And sometimes it's even a double-edged sword because there could be a media leak. None of us believe it. Sure enough, it was true. It might be false. So those narratives out there are so hard to actually follow along with. Best to just avoid them. One thing that I noticed led me to a lot of success, Derek, is being a little more joyous when we're watching the fights, man, not stressing so much. And again, a double sword, because there's times where you think the fight's going to go your way, and one, quick turn of a fist, quick snap of a kick, everything's over for you. That's what makes this most fun, though, Derek. And that, that's right there for me. What about you?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the largest lessons that I learned this year was that in the grand scheme of things, there's statistics, there's research, there's a bunch of different things that you can look into when it comes down to handicapping wagering. We always say the golden rule is going to be your strength of schedule, your technical prowess, and I got one more, your path to victory. You see, I got it written down. I have to even check it out. I have to remind myself sometimes, right? But even if they check all of the boxes, let us not forget, folks, this is the one sport where anything can happen at any given time. This is not a basketball game. This is not a football game. One shot, you're done, right? That's it. It's game over. Or the narrative, as AJ was talking about, and we didn't do a post show for UFC 296, folks, but there's a lot of Colby Covington bettors out there that were flabbergasted, let's just say, when Leon Edwards put on a clinic. Was it the guy that we're used to seeing? No. Was it a guy who has a bunch of ranked wins against guys who aren't in the UFC anymore? Yes. A lot of narratives that come into hand. So that's the big lesson that I learned in the grand scheme of things, man, is that it's a fist fight. And sometimes it's really as simple as who's going to win this fist fight, man? You know what I mean? We got a couple different paths to victory and all that stuff. Who's the bigger dog? Who's willing to go into the bloodiest waters, right? And we're going to talk about some of those contenders, some of those nominees for these awards that we're going to jump into right now. But before we leave the floor, and AJ, I know you're going to keep that belt strapped to the shoulder the entire show, so let them know loud and proud. But before we move on to the actual award aspect of this, if you could do one thing differently this year that you didn't do, right? So revisionist history, if there's one thing that you could have changed, what would it have been?
That's a great question, Derek. One thing I think more, or at least that I could have done a lot more. You tell I'm pontificating a little bit to get a good answer. No, man, but for real, I do think going in and doing more research on the past tendencies of these fighters, and not necessarily, because this sport can be a lot of the time where it's what have you done for me lately? So seeing those fights and seeing their tendencies in this last couple fights doesn't always help, because sometimes deep down, fighters, when they know the push gets to shove, when those bloody waters get hit, they revert back to their old selves. We've seen a lot of growth in fighters, especially in the new age, but I do think there's something there about those tendencies that can be exploited a little bit. What about you, Derek? That's a good question you had.
To be completely, I'm not even going to put it fully on me because I got a very simple answer, man. If there's one thing that I could have done differently that I wish I would have done, stop overthinking. Simple. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. You know what I'm saying? I said it to myself. This is not me talking to y'all. This is talking to me, but I am talking to you too if the shoe fits. You already know what time it is. But folks, that is it. The floor is over. My guy AJ is your champion. And now let's jump back into this screen here, AJ, and let's talk a little bit about the award process that we have going on. So we're going to go tilt by tilt. We're going to go knockout, submission. We're going to go rookie of the year, fighter of the year, fight of the year, the whole entire nine. And we're going to go one by one. So how this is going to work is it's going to be incredibly simple. We're going to say, here are your nominees, and then we're going to announce them. Nice little drum roll, all the good stuff right there. So, AJ, champion again, salute to you, brother. You got one. You're not quite on my level with two, brother, but we'll see what happens this upcoming year. All right, folks, with that being said, let's jump into your nominees for the knockout of the year. AJ, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to announce a couple of these ones, man, and then before we actually give the answer, what I would like you to do is I would like you to give a little bit of a take on the nominees that we have this year. This is pretty consensus across the board. For knockout of the year, we do have Edson Barbosa versus Billy Quarantillo. We have that first round counter knee from hell, dropped him, dead body. You love to see it. Next up, the most recent addition, Josh Emmett, Bryce Mitchell. What else can you say but overhand right that just crushed him? Came from the gods, came from the heavens right there. Shout out to Josh Emmett. You have to have Israel Adesanya in the rematch. He gets his revenge. He might have lost 3 fights. He might have got knocked out a couple of times, whatever, but he did get that counter right, and he slept Boatan, the current reigning light heavyweight champion, former middleweight champion. And finally, how can he not love it? The two most violent men in the world, the guy who's the BMF, Justin Gaethje, gets the first round head kick knockout over Dustin Poirier. Not often do you see Dustin the Diamond Poirier slumped out on the ground, but this was one of them. Now, AJ, give me a take. What do you think about our contenders?
Man, all of these four contenders, Derick, you want to talk about star stopping. You want to talk about, mouth agape, watching when it goes down. All of these have that exact aspect in it, especially, I mean, all of them technically, but Billy Q getting knocked out, seeing a tendency, Edson Barbosa seeing the tendency in Billy Q to drop after he throws a punch, throwing a knee perfectly timed. How can you say it? And I mean, you want to talk about scary, Derick, Bryce Mitchell. For me personally, the having that short notice and all that stuff does take away a little bit, but you can't take away how beautiful that right overhand was, man, down the pipe. Izzy, how can you hate on the Izzy knockout? Like you said, Derick, might have lost 3 fights, but still comes back, wins the one that's most important. But the one that stood out to me, Derick, I love a head kick all day long. Head kick city. How can you be? Maybe it's a karate guy in me. Maybe it's a striker. But I love seeing a head kick. And like you said yourself, you don't see Dustin the Diamond Poirier on the mat very, very often. This was an interesting year of seeing knockouts like this with absolutely stopping their opponent.
That is correct. So, folks, we gave you the nominees. Now, let's go ahead and crown a victor. So, AJ, let me go ahead and let me get started. You know what time it is. Who's it gonna be? All right. Well, for this one, we got 2 of them. AJ, yours is Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, the head kick from hell, slumped the diamond. Talk to the people a little bit, man.
Head kick from hell is the least of way to say it, Derick. You absolutely get slumped when winning the fight entirely from one of the most vicious fighters out there. That's devastation to me, especially because this was the second fight they had. Dustin was looking great until you eat that right shin. And man, Justin Gaethje looked really good in the performance. I liked it because it was violent, Derick. That's about it, man. Now I'm excited to hear yours. Who you got?
All right. Well, you want to hear mine. We got to hit the drum roll again. Not quite yours, but you got to give it to Edson Barbosa, man. Listen, folks, Edson Barbosa is an underrated guy at this point of his career. He's a veteran. A lot of people counted him out, losing skid, all that stuff. But he showed us the devastation that can occur from a perfectly timed counter knee when he exploits, as AJ said, your tendencies. Billy Quarantillo was winning that fight. He was walking him down. He was pushing him up against the cage exactly where he needs to be. And as soon as he dropped down for that shot, knee slumped him out. Everybody that saw it didn't even know what was going on. I was like, oh my God, I just witnessed a murder right now. I don't know what's going on. So with that being said, it's 2 different ones, but that is my knockout of the year. Edson Barbosa Jr. Edson Barbosa right there. That was a good one, AJ. The knockout was a good one. That definitely was. Now we need to talk about some of the nastiest jiu-jiteras in the world, if you will. The jiu-jitsu aspect, the submission. Now, wrestlers could submit you. Jiu-jitsu guys could submit you. A lot of different people can submit. You could be a striker and you could submit somebody. But we had some really, really fun ones, and we need to talk about it, man. So here are your nominees for the submissions of the year 2023. Kicking us off, Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko in their first fight. Now, folks, I'm not saying that these are the most star-studded submissions across the board, but context matters. Grasso fighting the Bullet, the undisputed, untouchable Bullet. Round 4, does a spinning kick, catches her, doesn't even get underneath the chin. She just says, I'm just going to break your jaw. Do you want your jaw or do you not? She walked away victorious. You got to love that. Next up, Davy Grant versus Rafael Assunção. Talking about a fight where you are down 2-1. You need to win this round. You need to figure something out, right? Well, what are you going to do? You're going to give it everything that you got. That means you need a finish. Last minutes of the fight, you get an inverted triangle on Assunção, a man with devastating power and fantastic grappling. That was the old man, Davy Grant. You love it. Next up, John Jones versus Cyril Gane. Listen, folks, this was a basic guillotine choke, but the domination that we saw from John Jones' first appearance at heavyweight, fighting Cyril Gane, the proclaimed next big thing in the heavyweight division, he made it look easy. That was a thing of beauty. And finally, Shavkat Rakhmonov, the future middleweight or future welterweight champion, some would say, gets into a fight of the year contender with Jeff Neal. And what does he do, man? He says, come here, chokes him out, leaves him slumped out on the floor. It was a thing of beauty. These are going to be some tough selections right here, man. It's tough to come to terms on one of them. But AJ, what is your thoughts on all of our contenders for a submission of the year?
Derick, my thoughts on this whole category, man. This one for me is all about that shock factor. Whether it is in the narrative that's being played, whether it's in the violence that takes place, or whether it's in the style of submission that happened, all of these provide that shock factor of where everybody sits back and goes, "Damn, did that just go down?" Yes, it did in all these fights, and that's what makes it exciting.
That's right. So let's talk about it, man. Let's go ahead and let's move into. Let me get you back on the screen. The drum roll, sir. It's gonna be. All right, man. This time around, we got a Bloody Water podcast consensus pick for your submission of the year: Davey Grant versus Rafael Sunshine. Now, AJ, I already explained. Desperation, you need to win. You're willing to will it out and say, I can't just fight for points. I got to finish this guy. Get the inverted triangle on Rafael Assunção. It was so impressive to me. It topped everything else because style points for the inverted triangle. Back against the wall, you got like a minute left before you lose your fight. You got to do something. I love a strong-willed fighter. What do you think?
And even before that, you catch the guy on an entrance with a spinning back, basically forearm, because you didn't even hit him with a fist or an elbow. That was one hell of a fight that, like you said, Derek, Davey Grant needed to win, pulled it out when he needed to. And man, you got to be impressed with an inverted triangle.
You sure do. You sure do. I love that one, man. And you'd be surprised. There's a couple of guys where you're like, there's a real jiu-jitsu guys. Where they're at, they're not on here. Stakes matter, folks. The stakes matters. The biggest moments are what we are talking about. So that was your knockout. That was your submission. Now we have one logical place to go, and that's going to be your rookie of the year. So let me list off the rookies right here. Some of the guys who made a big splash in the UFC. Not a ton of fights, but they definitely made their impact felt. Diego Lopez is like the easy front runner right there. This dude comes up, 3 fights, takes his first fight on short notice against Movsar Evloev, loses, but came close. Not really, but still came close, you know what I mean? 2 victories, 1 knockout, 1 submission, and all of a sudden this dude is flying up these rankings right here. Diego Lopez is a problem. Next logical one, Bo Nickel. I mean, how can you not give it to him? The man steamrolls everybody. They put him on the Contender Series twice because he was too dominant. I mean, come on, bro. So technically, he should have more UFC fights, but they want to shelf him. They're putting him on UFC 300. That's how you know my man is on ice, because he is legit. One of the most out of left field candidates, Ikram Aliskerov right here, 2-0, 2 knockouts, came on the scene, knocked out Phil Hawes, which, granted, not the most impressive thing in the world, but to see somebody do that on short notice that a lot of people didn't know about. Fantastic. Even though this dude had already fought Hamzat Chimaev in the past on the regionals and whatnot, it was still very impressive. And then lastly, AJ, I don't know how you feel about this last one, but this is a guy that I think deserves a lot of credit. And I do apologize because his name is actually misspelled here. There's 1 N in his last name. Elves Brenner, right? 3-0, 2 knockouts, 1 split decision. The man is on a 5-fight winning streak right now. Has a win over Guram Kutateladze, one of the bloodiest fights that you've seen. This dude has done it all right now. Not quite as star-studded as the rest of the guys on this list. But what do you think about our contenders?
Man, this one for me, this category right here is all about the narrative. Yeah, were they riding the UFC narrative? Did they stand against it? How did their rookie year in the UFC actually impact going forward? And that's, to me, what kind of goes with this, man. Having that rookie see the breakout session. Were you there being pushed or were you not? I like how this unfolds.
That's right. All right, folks. And since those are your Rookie of the Year nominees, we need to find out who got the win. Let's talk about it. All right, AJ, your winner for Rookie of the Year, Diego Lopez, brother. Come on. I mean, listen, I got to get some stats. This is almost too easy. This one was almost too easy to call right here. I think that this dude is the truth. Flying up the rankings, give him the toughest guys. I'm not saying championship ready. I mean, don't get me wrong here, but I am saying this man is a problem. Of all the guys on that list, I think he's the most deserved. Do you think there's a close second runner, if that's the right term?
Runner-up, man, I mean, it's hard to not give it to Bo Nickel by the way he's starching everybody and also taking his career at his own pace, which I enjoy. What about you, Derek? That's an interesting question. I go Bo Nickel.
Yeah, the favoritism in me wants to say Elvis Brenner, just because I think that this dude's legit. But I do think realistically, Bo Nickel is probably going to be that guy. Until he sees a challenge, then yeah, you know what I mean? But he made it look too easy. So big win, Diego Lopez. All right, AJ, moving on to the next. So we've completed 3 categories: knockout, submission, and Rookie of the Year. There are 3 categories left, so we're halfway through. Next one that we need to talk about is going to be your Fight of the Year. So clearly, this is going to be the most banger alert type fights that you see, but they also have to have big implications. So that's the tough part about this category, is that it can't just be the best fights, unfortunately. Name value is important. Unexpectedness is important. Sleeper value, all that good stuff. So let's run them out. Alexandre Pantoja, your current flyweight champion. He defends his championship against Brandon Moreno in their rematch, and he wins via split decision. I think he defended. If not, there was championship implications. AJ, are you familiar?
In the Pantoja Moreno?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was they're putting on the line.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure if it was him defending versus him actually getting the belt or whatever the case may be. We'll figure that out later. The
Moreno
point
was
is,
the champ.
Okay. All right. Well, shout out Alexandre Pantoja because he got the job done. It was a split decision. That doesn't even matter. The point that we have here is that Alexandre Pantoja delivered a clinic in a rematch. Not quite a clinic, but it was a back and forth affair. Fantastic fight. Heavy implications. That's a fantastic one to kick us off. Next, recency bias, maybe. A women's bantamweight matchup that on paper, honestly, was expecting a clinch fest, a grab, clinch, jab, clinch type situation. Irene Aldana versus Carol Hossa. Carol Hossa obliterates Irene Aldana's leg, and we're all thinking, oh my God, this is a repeat of the Amanda Nunes fight. She's about to get battered. What happened to the fantastic standout Mexican boxer who was Aldana? Well, AJ, she should be a candidate for Bloodiest Water Award because, listen, she went into the trenches, she dug deep, and then she outboxed Rosa. At times, almost thought a finish was coming, but she got the decision victory. It was probably one of the best women's fights that I've seen in quite some time. I know there have been better, but it was a fantastic one. And then, AJ, a familiar name that we just saw here. You not only are a candidate for submission of the year, but fight of the year. Shavkat Rakhmonov when he defeats Jeff Neal standing rear naked choke. There was everything that you needed in this fight. There was back and forth affair. There was big punches. There was wobbles. And how do you end it? Not with a decision. You choke him out and you put him to sleep. And then I want your opinion, of course, on the context of all of them. But AJ, Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski, the first one, not the second one, not the the head kick finish, but the first one, where Makhachev wins in a decision. A lot of people could call it boring to a degree, given there was a lot of lay and pray, there was a lot of grappling, but the implications were so high. You have not a GOAT, but a GOAT in his respective division in Alexander Volkanovski versus the guy who was Khabib's successor, right? The implications couldn't have been higher. I feel like it was necessary for this to be on this list. What do you think about our picks here?
Oh, absolutely necessary to be on this list, Derick. And what I like most about this list, yeah, you said it in the beginning, you need everything. You need the context, you need the fight to play out, you need the violence, the blood, all that stuff. But to me, all of that comes together, amalgamates in you sitting on the corner of your seat, sitting there on the couch waiting on bated breath. Nobody wants to get up and eat. Everybody's going, and you've been hearing about this fight for the last 10 minutes after the next one was done because everybody doing in the room is talking about it. These are these fights right here. And I got to agree with you. That Aldana Rosa is one of the most violent fights I've seen, and it had everything for it. All of them did, but I got to give a lot right there. But Derick, this fight, man, this one right here has me excited. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that this is a tough one to choose from as well. I think it really just comes down to what are you looking for? You know what I mean? Like, what do you want in your fight of the year? How do you determine a fight of the year? What's the criteria? Well, it's open-ended, and this is an MMA award show, so we pick whatever we want. But the good news here is, let's find out, actually. AJ, I'm going to go into it. We're going to do a drum roll, but let me find out. This is we don't have a consensus. All right, let's talk about it. AJ, you're up first. Your pick for fight of the year, Alexandre Pantoja versus Brandon Moreno. Take it over, brother.
This was one of the bloodiest fights we've seen all year, folks. And what I liked most about it, it was extremely back and forth. Whether they're standing up, throwing fists down the pipe, and both of them are sitting there countering each other, eating punches and sending them right back, or whether they were on the ground and actually getting into the mix, rolling, sweeps, everything right there. This was a chaotic fight from the jump, and the pace never faltered at all, never went down. These boys literally from minute 1 to minute 25 were going at it, and man, it was a blast to watch, especially with how bloody and how tired they looked, but still going off of just pure will and grit. That's what won this category for me. It was an exciting fight. That's also why I have to give some shout out to Aldana because of her diligence in there. It was a crazy fight for both of them, but Pantoja just squeaked it out a little bit for me in this one. Moreno, man, how can you go wrong? What do you think, Derick?
That's right. I think that this was definitely up there in the consideration for one of your fights of the year. But again, like I said, the implications are part of what makes it a fight of the year. And I'm not saying that the implications were not high there, but I just think that the implications for mine just a touch higher, just a touch. So my winner, it's almost too easy. Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski. The stakes could not have been higher, folks. Like, that's the thing. That's what makes this so compelling as a fight of the year, because you saw the underdog, who pretty much everybody counted out in Alexander Volkanovski, actually have an incredibly competitive fight with Islam Makhachev, But more important, a lot of people said, oh no, Volkanovski won that fight, right? So now you have and I'm not saying it's true or anything like that, but you have the successor of Khabib, the best to do it record-wise, right? You got that guy arguably losing to the champion in the division below him. Oh my God, set it up the rematch. And then that's almost what made this fight age even better, is because the rematch, the way it ended with the head kick knockout, it goes to show, man, you got to figure out the puzzles. And sometimes you have great fighters who can do it. So that is my pick for your fight of the year. Now, AJ, we're getting close. We're getting close to the coveted Bloodiest Water Award. We're not quite there. Well, you know we saved the best for last. But let's talk about your fighter of the year. And as I bring up the nominees, I kind of want to talk a little bit about what makes a fighter of the year, because again, it's very subjective. You get your choice. And as you can see listed here, you have Sean Strickland, his biggest feat. You beat one of the best kickboxers to do it in UFC history, Israel Adesanya, 3-0 on the year after the devastating loss to Alex Paeta, 1 TKO, 2 decisions. Fantastic. Next up, come on, Islam Makhachev, what more do I need to say? 2 fights, both against Volkanovski, 1 knockout, 1 decision. Implications, stakes, could they be higher? No. Leon Edwards in this category, and some people might be like, hold on, pump the brakes. Fighter of the year, Leon Edwards? Yeah, Leon Edwards. And the reason why is because he got headshot dead, right? On a fight you're losing, 5th round, Hail Mary, you got the job done. A win is a win is a win. So I should say 1 knockout, Colby, no. Okay, that happened actually before, so apologies. Yeah, the rematch against Usman, that's what's more important. You went clinical style on Kamaru Usman, the guy who was the Nigerian nightmare, the guy who we all said, oh no, you're not beating this guy. You can't do it. You're going to get wrestle-fucked, right? You decisioned him. You decisioned Colby Covington. You made it look easy. These were 2 of the scariest guys in the division for years. You got to be on this list. And then finally, AJ, some would say undeserved. I would beg to differ. Tom Aspinall, my dog, I've been rolling with since the jump. 2 TKOs. Any TKO, the scariest bad man the division has to offer, Sergey Pavlovich, to win the interim championship. Now he's calling out John Jones, setting himself up. AJ, we got really difficult selection right here. What do you think about our candidates?
Incredibly difficult selection right here, Derick, because anybody can argue that any one of these fighters took this year by its reins and really ran with it to what they considered or could at least achieve to be the top of the echelon. I mean, even top 3, those goes right for them. But man, for me, I went literal with this one, Derick, and I kept it to the year. So I'm excited for that drum roll, because I have an interesting take that I think might be a little hot. But overall, that was how I break it all down.
So really quickly, before we announce this pick, I know the drum roll's almost there. Anticipation, folks. Would it be fair because Tom Aspinall's the only fighter here who's not a real champion. He's an interim champion. Would it be fair for a fighter to make fighter of the year list in the year 2023 who is not a reigning champion?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
How
I mean,
so?
it sounds
But like, why?
I was going to say, it sounds crazy. Why? Because of taking the opportunity presented in yourself, and then actually for that year going forward with it and making the most of it, I think is what really fighter of the year encapsulates. Is not necessarily, you might have been, coming up 8 years in the game and you've been getting fed cans, so you really have this role going. Sometimes you taking some L's, and what does this year have in store for you? And that's where my mind went for it.
Okay, understood. All right, well, now you know the criteria, folks. So let's go ahead and let's jump into a selection. AJ, you are up first, sir. And your fighter of the year, Sean Tarzan Strickland, the reigning middleweight champion. Some would say the reigning streets champion, the way that he took it to Dricus du Plessis. But that's another conversation for another time. Take it away, AJ.
The reigning trash talk champion, the reigning everything right now, man. Sean Strickland has made this year himself. And I wanted to talk about a little bit about what we said before. This year in 2023, or I guess I should say previously in 2022, Sean Strickland was coming off of 2 L's. He decides first fight of the year, you know what? I'm going for it. Gets a dub. and gets another dub after that, and then ends the year knocking out one of the most impressive fluid strikers we've seen in Israel Adesanya. And then you want to talk about somebody who was always going to be in the press, always going to be in the limelight, whether it's good or bad, hate him or love him. It is Sean Strickland, and I think he is really, whether you hate the character or not, come into his own and representing his brand and himself. And boy, has he made a show of it. You can't hate him for that. Hate him for the words he says, but the boy can put on a performance, and he is a hell of a fighter. I enjoy seeing more, or I want to see more, and I enjoy seeing what we do see of Sean Strickland. I'm excited. Derek, do you think it's as hot of a take as I think it is?
You know, it's not. And the reason why is because if you look at other MMA outlets, a lot of people are high on Sean Strickland. He has the best story, arguably, of all of these guys. He is the guy who was the least expected champion. Some would say Matt Serra-esque. I wouldn't say that because look at how high we were on Sean Strickland. And I'll admit it, this is the eating crow aspect. This is the accountability hour. I'd always been high on Sean Strickland, but the way he lost to Alex Paeta told me he'll never take it serious enough at the highest levels of the game to actually seize the moment for his skill set. We saw a different guy against Israel Adesanya. We saw a guy who stuck to his guns, said, I'm going to walk you down and I'm going to put it on you, no ifs, ands, or buts. Maybe that was the same approach he took for Paeta, except he just got cracked with that left hook and said, all right, it is what it is. But I think it's a fantastic story. However, you noticed, AJ, it was not a consensus pick right here. So, let's tell you my fighter. Islam Makhachev. Sorry, folks. Bread and butter, easy, Wonder Bread almost. But again, this is a guy who beat the biggest, baddest featherweight that we have ever seen. We thought it was Max Holloway for many years. We saw Volkanovski is truly the real deal. This guy he was on an Amanda Nunes-esque run, running out of people to fight. He done beat everybody. Who else? Let me go up to the next level. The decision, that was so-so. Knocking out Alexander Volkanovski, seeing Alexander Volkanovski in that vulnerable estate in the first time in his UFC career, but more importantly, in the first time since like his second pro fight. Bro, he is the next Khabib. He is that guy. At this point right here, you have Islam Makhachev talking about, I need to go up to welterweight. Leon Edwards, give me here. I'll be a double champion. Retire in style. Beautiful. If it wasn't for the one loss on Makhachev's record, I think everybody would have it very clearly slated that he is better than Khabib. But that's just my take. AJ, do you have any thoughts on that?
The one thing I want to add, Derek, we were talking about tendencies before. I went back. I was just watching fights. This is the most fun time of the year because we just get to watch exciting fights. You don't really have to prep much. We just do what we love. But we seeing Islam Makhachev catch Alexander Volkanovski with a head kick in the first fight and still not to put him down. But no, that's going to be there. Finishes him with it in the second was beautiful.
Come on, bro. Come on. And now, folks, we're not going to move away to the next screen, right? We're going to stick right here because best for last, we got the Bloodiest Water Award right here. And AJ, before we actually talk about it, no nominees. This is straight off the cuff. This is coming from your hearts. I want to know what makes a Bloodiest Water Award special to you. What are the parameters? This is a very open and loose award, highly coveted, of course, but I want to know, in your opinion, you look at a fighter and you say, you deserve this award right here. What are your parameters? What's your reasoning behind it?
This has to be, well, obviously we're doing it for last, but one of my favorite categories, Derek, because it encapsulates everything I think needs to be presented in a fighter, especially one that's willing to go, like you said, go into those bloody waters, get dirty, do what you need to do to be able to be the best fighter you can possibly be. And it's whether people are standing against you, whether people are standing for you, whether you have, all the X's on your side or whether you're sitting on the Y side, you're sitting in the blue corner, you're a little stressed, right? There's so many things and so many opportunities in which a person can doubt themselves, but how do they stand tall when push comes to shove? Are they willing to go into those deep waters? Are they willing to dig? Are they willing to, mount their feet, bite down on the mouthpiece and get to it? That's what I think the Bloodiest Water deserves. I'm interested to see what your take is on it too, Derek. And I like that this is a little open-ended.
That's right. So my take on it is going to be as simple as this one. It mirrors a lot of what you're saying, but in the grand scheme of things, you are willing to stand there against all adversity, no matter what the expectations that were placed upon you. You go into the octagon and you bring it. I'm not saying that you're successful every time that you step into that cage, but you go in there and you do not give up on yourself. You evolve as a fighter. You become well-rounded. You take the parts of the losses that you had suffered, you apply it to your game. You're You're willing to get bloody. You're willing to get into the trenches, and you say, I'm going to turn it around. So as long as you have one victory on your record this current year, you're eligible for this award in my eyes, right? Because it's all coming down that way. AJ, you are the current 2023 reigning champion. So you have the honor, the privilege of announcing the Bloody Water Podcast Award for yourself, of course. And the King, Bobby Green. Now, let's just call him King. AJ, take it away.
King, how can you not give it to the King, man? Because he literally encapsulates. That's why we got in the golden voice of the sleeper section. But this guy stays true to who he is. Whether you want him on a couple days' notice, whether you book him a couple weeks out, and the opponent changes, doesn't matter. He's going to show up, fight the best fight he can, and even like we saw in real life, you press him on the streets, he's going to come back and find you regardless. He's going to handle his business how he deems fit. And no matter the cards you stack up against him, Bobby Green will show up and he's going to show out and he's going to make it a hell of a contest. Whether you're counting him out or whether you're counting for him, Bobby Green will always show up. And that's what I think right there encapsulates everything I want to see in the fighters coming up in today's day and age. If they're willing to bite down on that mouthpiece, if they're willing to take the lumps that are handed to them, because they're going to be there. Those are the best fighters we like seeing, and that's why I have to give my vote to King Bobby Green. Like Derick said, we're calling him King from now on. There's a reason he's named it. Boy acts like a king. He treats himself like it, and he fights like it. He's willing to get down with the dogs on the ground level. That's why I like him the most. What do you think about the pick, Derick?
I thought that this was a fantastic pick, man. I'm just going to sum it up this way. I think it's going to be very simple. If you're talking about a Bobby Green, you're talking about a dude who went in on super short notice, knocked out Grant Dawson, starched the man, and then offered somebody the same opportunity. Said, I want to see somebody be gangster like me. Step up. Fights arguably the guy who's like the worst stylistic matchup you can have in Jalen Turner and gets knocked out. Well, guess what? He was willing to put it on the line. He didn't need to take that. He was already a ranked fighter at that point. He stole Grant Dawson's ranking. And then what does he do? He offers himself to Jalen Turner, who was still, I believe, ahead in the rankings, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, you gave the man the opportunity. You said, I'm a gangster. I want to see who else is gangster, win or lose. Listen, that gangster card don't go away, man. That G card remains. So with that being said, shout out to the King. And now, the final Bloody Water Podcast, Bloodiest Water Award. It's going to be a surprise. AJ, I know you don't expect it. Give me Slava Klaus, Vyacheslav Borshev, baby. I told you guys, I need one victory on the current year to qualify you eligible for this award in my eyes. Well, he did get one, and he has one draw on his record as well. Vyacheslav Borshev is a man who came into the UFC incredibly hyped up. But what was he known for? His incredible boxing prowess, right? Fantastic fluid striker. Well, what was his immediate downfall? We're just going to wrestle you, and we're not going to let you strike. How about that? So he had some pretty embarrassing losses. But what did we see in his most recent outings? And for this one, AJ, I actually want to do something that we normally don't do and we haven't done on this show, or I guess I should say for this specific episode right here. But I'm gonna bring up the Tapology because I want to show you guys something really quickly. You know what I mean? So AJ, let's talk about Slava Klaus. 7-3-1. This is what I'm talking about. Mark Chikasi turns into D1 Mark Chikasi. Mike Davis decisions him, right? A lot of wrestling going on. Mahashate, right? He has this fight right here, and he knocks him out quickly. He shows back on that winning track right there. He's back to where he needs to be with the stand-up. And then he fights Nazim Sadikov, the guy that everybody was, no, Borshev doesn't stand a chance. He's going to get out-grappled. He's going to get outstruck, the whole entire nine. This was one of the banger alerts that you had right here because these two went toe-to-toe. They went bloodiest waters right here. And when I think of a fighter who is deep in the trenches, deep in there, willing himself out, not a victory because, of course, it was a majority decision right here, so it was a draw, but to will yourself to maintain in the fight, to be game, to be ready. Who else can do it but Slava Klaus, man? And this guy's getting better. He's getting better takedown defense. He's getting back up to his feet. He's showing himself as a well-rounded fighter. And with all of that being said, AJ, that is why Vyacheslav, Slava Klaus, Borshev is my pick for the Bloodiest Water Award 2023. You gotta love to see it. AJ, what do you think about that?
Man, how can you hate on that enthusiasm, folks? And no, it's not that surprising of a pick. Yeah, it might have came out of left field, but I'm glad your mind was thinking that way, Derick, because via Slavoclaw, man. Slavoclaw, I love his nickname. He absolutely deserves this, man, because you want to talk about somebody who's down to bite down on the mouthpiece and grow from their losses. How can you be wrong?
That's it. So, folks, with that being said, those are your 2023 Bloody Water Podcast MMA awards. Of course, we focus on the UFC specifically, but let's round it out one more time with a round of applause. My man, AJ, congratulations, brother. You got a nice, shiny belt on deck. Like you said, next year, when you move into the new spot, we're going to have that mounted up. Maybe one day you can get a collection like mine. I'm trying to be Thanos with the infinity rings, bro, except infinity belts. I need 6 belts on my waist, shoulders, head, and arms, the whole 9. But folks, the reason that you should be excited that we're this hungry for wanting that gold is, 1, it's a friendly competition. We love good ego. We love all that good stuff. But 2, if we win, you win. That's the key right here. Both of us hit 60% plus this year. Not exactly where we wanted to be in the grand scheme of things, but you cannot deny us. You're looking at a lot of your people who are on cable television, who are on your favorite platforms. Rough records, under 50%, unacceptable, inexcusable. We're not going to bring that type of performance here on this program. And worst case scenario, if we do, we will always hold ourselves accountable and we will not hide from our results. AJ, again, you're the champion. Take us away.
Folks, Derick said it best, man. That's all about the bloody water right there. That's why that encapsulates the Bloodiest Water Award, because, yeah, we're not going to hide from the results. We're going to bring them right to your face. And we are the best performance out, or the best show out there for MMA, man. You want to go watch it on cable television. You want to watch it on ESPN. It doesn't matter, because you need to tune in right here. We're not going to lead you astray. Yeah, we may have missed our mark on the 70%. But we're going to be shooting higher. Personally, me, 75%. That's what I'm bringing to the table next year. If we are shooting for 70, brought you 63, it's going to be even higher this coming next year. So more money in your pocket. And also, Derick, I see what you did right there, man.
Listen, folks, I'm just going to give you one quick aside before we hop up out of here. I've been holding it out until the end. If you want to represent the bloodiest podcast that you can find, right? The meanest, baddest, most entertaining, fantastic, suave, everything you want to call it. If you want to represent and you want to put on and you want to rock something that's going to differentiate yourself from the rest of the pack, go over to our merch shop, get 10% off with code BWP10, and you're going to get 10% off of your freshest Bloody Water Podcast snapback. You got the green undertones. We're old school right here. This is throwing it back to the 90s, right? We're not doing all of the new school nonsense, because we are a blast from the past, but we're bringing it nowhere but the future. So go check out the merch shop. Again, my man AJ is the champion for 2023. And of course, I cannot end this program. AJ, you hold the belt. You hold the keys here. You give the final words, and we will hop up out of here, my friend.
Woo, folks, it's going to be a very fun and exciting year, man. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you share with your friends. It's a season of giving. So make sure you share that season of giving all year long so we can keep putting money in your pockets. You know where to find us. Like Derick said, we're a blast from the past, but we're going to be here in the future. We're shooting for the stars, folks. You better tune along now, so that way you know where to get your the best picks all around, every day, everywhere. It's going to be right here, folks.
All right, folks, that's it for us. Catch us for a little bit of a break. We'll be back come second week of January when the UFC fights are back. Enjoy your holidays, kick it with your family, do all the fun stuff. That is it for us. And until next time, happy holidays, folks. Peace.